Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Grind. I'm 72 the Architect, and welcome to your winter survival guide. And what is that exactly going to be about? That means all the things that we really need to work on and focus on, even when the colder months, the downer times, the less amount of sun. We're going to work on the mentality, the physicality, and the spirituality in this episode. So stay tuned here in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody. So we are into our winter. It's November 28th. The months are a little bit colder for some of us and maybe warmer for others, but still, the winter usually represents a time for the earth, the people, the beings, the insects, the animals, everything living life on earth goes a little dormant during the winter. And for some, winters are at different stages of the year. Like if you're in probably maybe somewhere in the southern hemisphere, it's your summer, but in the northern hemisphere of the world, it's your winter. But what does the winter represent? Well, I happen to be listening to Eric Thomas, and he was talking in one of his motivational videos, and he was talking that when you need to do work on your tree, your life tree, so to speak. And are you in the season of working on root work, or are you doing branch and limb work? And sometimes you got to do all of it. And I think it's very relevant, especially in nowadays, because when we approach the winter, and especially being the month of November, we just finished Thanksgiving. Black Friday is over with, Cyber Monday's here today, many deals. So much of your fruits and labor up until this point um, are as an opportunity for you to benefit. But that season has definitely drastically changed in the way that the world is going. People are definitely saving more or trying to save more because they're afraid of something that may be more sinister coming our way. Originally today, I was going to do an episode called Smart Cities, but I wanted to delay that and really focus in on your winter survival. And why is that so important? So, in the analogy that Eric Thomas was talking about, he was talking about you've got to do root work so that your soil, the fruit of your tree, can be great. And I think that was very important because also for many of us during the winter season or the fall right now, leaves are falling, branches are not producing so much shade. There is no fruit on the trees most of the time. And we have to start pruning and preparing for brand new growth. And as he was talking about these things, he was right because as I look at the health of some of my trees in my yard, I look at, sometimes the roots are raising and it's because there's not enough healthy soil. There's weeds, there's things all intertwined that prevent that root, that growth that grows underneath the ground that we don't even see, we don't even pay attention to until it's important. So when I was looking at some of these things and how to connect to today, the metaphor of dealing with exactly of today, I was really beginning to think about what was really important about my winter. Did I have a great Thanksgiving? Did I have a great holiday season? It's been mixed up and down. And as I've been doing work on myself all year round, and especially working with counseling, therapy, stoicism, all these great things to make my life better, right now is probably the most relevant time where those resources are needed most. That means that you've had a season of harvesting and growing like spring and summer and even fall, but it's save up for the winter. And I feel like some of us have kind of gotten away from that. And yesterday, I'd gone through a period of time in the day where I wasn't so positive. I had a lot of nasty things that were just stored up inside me, and it actually affected my family and affected, my lady, my girl. And it was important at the evening, my girl calls me and just to check up on me and saying, "Hey, babe, you really got to manage your emotions just a little better because your fruit, our little girl, my daughters, are very important to me." And when we had that discussion, it's just something that I've been through before. But the point is that, me to take notice exactly on what I need to do for myself. So, as I heard Eric Thomas's analogy about do root work more than just branch and leaf work, it was very important to me because everything that I've been working on, everything that I've been trying to benefit in my life, I'm just not willing to go broke all at the start of winter because usually at winter, you want to be able to have resources. You want to have your wood stocked up, you want to have your home taken care of, your heater, all these things, but they're all representations of you. And when I look at this, I look at a couple of different things about how that represents us in our spiritual, our body, and our mentality. And so, have we taken evaluation just because the winter means that a lot of us go inside? Do we really stop doing the work? And as I was doing some research, typically farmers and people who live in some of the rural areas, they sharpen their tools, they get ready to plant seed, they plow the ground, they weed out a lot of things that don't belong that affect, the harvest to come, the crops that they're going to plant. And that could be your mentality, could be your spirit. And because maybe you're not seeing a lot more sun or you're not looking at things in the right way, that just it starts to get depressing and weighed down. And that's where the time that what you've harvested through the year carries you through those dark times. But believe it or not, during the winter is where the biggest opportunity of growth is. It's where you kind of recede, rest a little bit. You don't have to go grind and work 100% always during the winter. But if you're not well prepared, you might have to work harder in the winter than you should. You're asking for a break, a vacation, something to do better, and something to deliver on a little just different than what you're dealing with. But it starts with your mind and continues through your mouth and goes through your actions, right? So as I was reading something that was very profound, even yesterday, there was a Stoic question that asked, "What's bothering me that I haven't spoken up about?" That was a great question. And the quote that goes along with it, it says, "If someone is slipping up, kindly correct them and point out what they missed. But if you can't blame yourself or no one." Now, why that was relevant is as we're going dormant, for the most part, to sharpen our tools, to plant the fields, we're going to come across rocks and weeds. And what those weeds could represent are the things that you've held on to, the things that don't belong to you. Maybe it's something you've trained on for a long period of time. But when you look at these things and you look at what's really affecting you, more than likely, it's the things that you held on to, because whenever I'm weeding out in the yard or in the garden, there's always, and pretty much, or let me say, majority of the time, there is some stubborn wheat root that's rooted so in the ground, and it is a mother just trying to dig it out. And I get frustrated and just trying to make it such a point where when you're digging out these nasty little roots that are getting in the way of the health of my garden, which could be yourself, myself speaking, when I'm looking at that and just chopping away and getting frustrated, I'm like, man, I almost want to quit, go back inside and be warm. But if I don't finish this work, then guess what? I can't enjoy when the spring comes out and the end of the spring, the harvest comes in where the summer is in. I can't really do the best that I can because I've had too many things that I've shelved. So when I look at all these different things and what is possibly in my control, I I look at exactly that. What is in my control? My words, my thoughts, and believe it or not, your emotions. I'm not an expert at controlling my emotions, but it's definitely something that I work on a daily. Um, you know, 2022 has definitely been a very profitable year. 2022 has definitely been a year where I personally have grown more. Now, there were some things that were taken away from me, but that doesn't mean that that's not a bad thing. I had to really dig deep and still resonating with, you know, giving up some of those things or the dealing with the issue of having those things taken away from me as a positive thing. It wasn't a loss, it was more like a lesson. And so as I realized and did some of that internal work, I really wanted to know what's going to carry me through this winter. So that's where we're going to talk about, actually in this survival guide. So number 1, don't quit the practices that got you to this point. If your well is only a quarter filled, then you should be doing as best you can to fill that well. Because right now may seem difficult, but you still got the rest of the winter to go through. So when I looked at what was going on, I needed to fill my own life cup before I could really take care of anybody else. So that means working on the routine, getting up early enough to have time and be able to rise as I felt like, to be able to get up and feel the morning and feel the opportunity that I was going to grow with. Right. And that was something that you cannot forget. So it's been a consistent battle. I've been going to the gym every single day, pretty much, or working out in some fashion, or going to a walk, whatever. But I've been going to the gym since October 29th every day without fail. And there have been days where I just went on walks and runs, maybe 2 or 3, 2, I think the most. But in that work, what I realized was the value of my health, the value of my mind, letting myself relax, and be strained at the same time. That means not working on mental issues while I'm exercising. That means working my body out so that my body can withstand the mentality of things, the illusions of things that might interrupt, the stressors, as we call it. So, in surviving your winter, number 1, get in activity no matter what. If you can't join a gym, I understand, but maybe you can start by exercising in some fashion or fame or shape or form that you can do. And I'm sure many of us do have some kind of DVD program or exercise program that we've had on the shelf for a long time. And it's just not something we want to do. We just put it away like, oh man, that's so hard. But the benefit of training the body is very important because it allows your blood to flow. It allows the thoughts to be strained and not stressed. So it's in flowing. So you're not being stuck. So remember, get in some activity, get in some exercise. It's going to make a very big difference. And along with that activity, I would highly suggest that you do the next part. You're doing root work by thinking about things that you've struggled with for the last months, years, or whatever. Taking time to journal is very, very key. Writing down, like what I do, for example, and maybe I can show you all. Um, I haven't completed it for today, but in my journal, I write down a Stoic question, I write down a quote, and a morning reflection. And then later, I'll write, as an example, an evening reflection. And then on this page, a summary of the events of things that took place, maybe thoughts that I struggled with or problems that I didn't address. But the point is that it's a written record, and when this journal's finished, I'm gonna go through it, read it towards the end of the year, and look back exactly at some of the things and accomplishments that I've worked through, and maybe some areas that I've had to go back and revisit, like the relationship with myself, the relationship with my kids, the relationship with my lady, the relationship in business, my thoughts about growing and being progressive. Those are important things. And by writing in the journal, what it allows me is to actually take that review at the end of the year and really like consider like, okay, well, there was not everything met, but that doesn't mean that it can't be worked on. Some things we like to just kind of set aside. And when we do that, that's when it's the greatest opportunity to pull back, just like exercising, persisting and consisting, that it will carry you through so that that issue is not bothering you later. It's kind of like the way to I could sum it up is like imagine if you saved all your laundry for one time at the month, it might be a mountain by the end of the month, and going and spending one day seems daunting and just exhausting. Well, imagine that with your mind and your thoughts and the things that you've set aside. You can't blame anyone for any circumstance that you're going through. People may have affected you, they may have given you input, but no matter what, you are 100% responsible for yourself. Remember that. You're responsible for the thoughts, the words, and the actions that you've either committed or not taken a commitment to. Either way, it's an action either way. Doing nothing is still something. And many more have said that. The next part, which is very, very important about after the body, and like I said, writing down a journal is the second part, but the spirituality. That means taking time, not just to reflect, but to pace yourself in the present. You can be satisfied with now. Maybe everything didn't go the way that you wanted, but how do we really do that? And what I can tell you exactly is that I would suggest a level of meditation, reflection, breathing. It all helps out because this means that you're not so anxious to use all your resources during the winter. Do you really eat the most biggest meal where you're going to waste and have things on the side? More likely, it's not healthy. Now, many people are talking about the recession and talking about the hard times. They're talking about how the markets are going so south, like that. For example, the thing I heard on a show called Redacted, they talked about how the Chinese have been actively buying up US bonds and debts. And now the US just keeps printing out money. But this is a huge opportunity for Americans to realize that maybe we can buy bonds and invest in ourselves. And as I was listening to Redacted, and the host, he was talking about invest in silver, invest in gold, because the foreign governments and their companies have bought up what we owe so that we could function. So we exhausted a lot of maybe our winter, but that doesn't mean that work can't be done. That doesn't mean that you can't change. And that means also, like I was talking about, that, meditation, it's the beliefs, it's the spirituality that goes behind your living presence. So, and it goes into your mentality. Your spirituality will train your mentality, which will train the words, which will train the actions. And guess what? There is your ability with your availability. Many of us talk about that we don't have time, but it's not about time that we can capture. It's the moments that what we can work with. It's the things that actually materialize and manifest right before our eyes, whether we like it or not, good or bad. So as I was listening to Redacted, I was thinking, you know what? What is my dollar worth? No, better yet, what is my availability and expertise and power worth so that I can, not have to be in debt. Like debt is a pretty nasty thing. It can come in spiritual, physical, financial. However, it's when you owe somebody else something else instead of reserving back and saying, you know what, maybe I don't need to borrow. Maybe for this weekend, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, which is now here, maybe I don't need to purchase. Holding reserves back for myself for the later months. And am I planting the seeds that I can bear fruit later? And that's the thing that I've noticed about farmers. Those fields are still being plowed for the crops that are going to be grown in the months of April and May and harvested for our bounty, for our table. So when it comes to spirituality, what I would definitely say is pull back those resources and pull back a little bit, recess a little bit, keep working on things that are physical, keep working things that are spiritual, but with that spirituality, you're making your mentality grow. It means your resistance to the problems that you're going to deal with. Um, some of the problems that I was plagued with this weekend were pettiness. It all about pettiness. Now, the effects of that pettiness, uh, they cost me. They did. They cost me a level of trust and resilience. They cost me some resources of patience with myself. Some people got the best of me, and but that doesn't mean that it has to stay permanent. Take the time to reel back and do the best you can for yourself. Maybe you might not have a skill, maybe you not need to read a book. I read books all the time, you know, and something else, like I was reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations this weekend. And one of the things that I read in Meditations that really was so profound was in his book 4, and I'll share it with you, and I quote, and he says, "That which rules within, when it's according to nature, is so affected with the respect to the events which have happened, that always is easily adapt itself to which is possible and present to it. For it requires definite material, but it moves towards its purpose. Under certain conditions, however, it makes material for itself out in which it opposes it, as the fire lays hold to what falls into it, but which small light would have been extinguished. But the fire is strong; it soon appropriates itself to the matter." So, what that basically means is that let's imagine the problems you're dealing with, the emotional stuff, and trust me, I'm right there with you. It's only manifesting in my life because I've fed the nature of things. I've fed the mentality of things to exist. I haven't done enough work. Say, like, I've lost some weight, but I need to lose more weight. I need to get stronger. I need to bulk up, right? So that I can handle when the winter is falling on me or when the things that are really pressing me. I need to get stronger. So from when strength is really needed and resilience and conditioning, it's there so that I can push through. And then when the spring and the summer come into play, it's not so always hard during those months, but still hard work needs to be done. So when we look at spirituality for your mentality, it's really, you're never stopping with the exercising. You're never stopping at working at the practice to getting better with who you are and in dealing with yourself. Surviving the winter means quite a few things. When you can't go outside, maybe all those books, all those programs that you bought, you invested, those gadgets, maybe start using them to start bettering you. That might make the difference. Anyhow, but this is where I'm starting to bring this to a close. There are a lot of people that are pitching a lot of things and remedies, and they're fast fixes, but it's the consistent effort that you permit yourself to that's going to make the difference. Consistency through into mastery becomes a part of you. It becomes your nature, as like I gave in the quote. Your nature of how you react and act now has been trained upon. Maybe to make a difference, the reason why we really make New Year's resolutions is because we want change to take place. We have an image of ourselves that we want to adapt to and want a part of us or become. We don't like ourselves. Well, my advice to that is reel back. Stop being not proud of yourself and start being proud of yourself. And that means, the mentality of gratitude. Yes, I am thankful that I have a roof over my head. I'm thankful that I have food from my table. I am thankful that I have a wonderful partner. I'm thankful that I have children. I love all my girls. No matter what stage of life they're in, I love them to succeed for them. My gratitude in this morning alone means so much to me. So that is really a roadmap. If you want to get better, you want to be in an upper level of survival, you want to be able to be successful and say, yep, I've got more yeses than nos. But just remember, though some of those nos are necessary for your growth. And that's part of the winter. And that may be the weeds that are growing in your way. You've got to spend time weeding. Take out what's unnecessary. Pay attention to what's positive for you. Pay attention what's going to propel you to go forward and not in comparison to others. Because what others are dealing with, you'll never know the full spectrum. Anyhow, that's it for Rise and Grind. I'll be back on a Wednesday to talk more about, your winter part 2. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Make sure that you subscribe and like. This is produced live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter Spaces, Twitch, and as well as Clubhouse. You can follow me on any of those platforms, and we'll see you all next time on Rise and Grind.